Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, to all our audience from across the world. Today, we have with us Dr. Satoru Nagao, who definitely needs no introduction. But for the uninitiated audience, he is an Indo Pacific expert who has written extensively on the region and the geopolitics of the region. His primary research interests have been Japan and US security. He is a non resident fellow at the Hudson Institute, and a quick search on Google will display the plethora of articles and journals that he has contributed to. So, firstly, welcome, Dr. Nagao. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and making time for this interview today. It's an honor and a privilege for Usanas Foundation to have you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It
So,
is an
without
honor for
further
me to join.
delay, yes, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Without any further delay, I'll just quickly delve into the questions. So, firstly, of course, I'd like to begin with what has been the hot topic of Japan's white paper of 2021. And may I add, the cover has garnered a lot of attention. And it is also for the first time that Taiwan's stability as an important aspect of Japan's security has been mentioned. So, how do you read this white paper? Is it a radical departure from the past? And what do you think are the implications of this white paper for the region of Indo-Pacific as a whole?
This is very important white paper, I can say. Which part is the most important? Contents? Yes, contents is very important, but the most important is cover page. Can you imagine? The cover page is the most important. When you check the white paper in the past and white paper now, you can understand the meaning. This year, the white paper published by the Ministry of Defense, right? Samurai as a cover page. Very strong and powerful samurai. Why? Because this cover page has a message. In the past, white paper published by Ministry of Defense it looks like just a cherry blossom or nothing, just a white paper. Because this is white paper. So, but this year, samurai powerful, showing the strength. Indeed, this is completely different because this white paper tried to advertise the powerful image of Japan, which Japan wished to avoid, or wish to forget. That is the reason this is very important. So what kind of message? There are three messages, I believe. Firstly, toward China. Do not underestimate Japan. Japan is there. You cannot be number one. That is first message to deter China's aggressiveness, especially against Taiwan indeed. Secondly, to the domestic audience, to the Japanese, we need to change. In the past, because of the brutal image of Japan, Japan worry the people remember the strength of Japan as a samurai, as a strong. But this time, China is rising, and the crisis is level of the threat is rising. In this case, Japan must stand against them. The cover page, Japan Ministry of Defense want to show the cover page to the domestic audience. We need to stand against the threat. That is the second message. Third one is towards a member of the Ministry of Defense. You need to show your good performance. You are the last fortress of Japan. So that is the third message. That is the reason this is a completely different message Japan sent in the past. This is new one. And in this case, Taiwan is very important part of it because there's a high possibility China is preparing the military operation against Taiwan. any type of military operation, it is not easy to identify because plenty of options China has. But Japan need to support to deter China's aggressiveness. That is the reason Japan support Taiwan and to deter China's aggressiveness. That is very important message of the white paper. And Taiwan is well related with Japan's security. Indeed, because Taiwan is located just in front of the coastline of China. Coastline is center of the economical development of China. So center of the rising power of China. So that is the reason this is the core part of China. If Taiwan is US side, still the US side have the key to destroy this area. So this means that this area is very important card to maintain the power balance in this region. So if China take Taiwan, power balance will change. Firstly, this is very important. Secondly, if China invade Taiwan, automatically China needs to attack Japan. Why? Because Japan is quite near from Taiwan. Yonaguni Island of the Okinawa Prefecture is the west edge of Japan, but just 111 kilometers from Taiwan. And Senkaku Island of Japan is located 170 kilometers from Taiwan. Currently, range of the missile is 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers. That is common. So once China start to invade Taiwan, automatically Japan is located in the war zone. So, and indeed, to support Taiwan, US will use Japan's territorial air through the southwestern island on the Okinawa Prefecture, including the Yonaguni Island or Senkaku Island. So in this case, if China try to cut this supply line, they will attack the US airplane or ship the inside of Japan's territorial air or sea. So in this case, Japan need to deal with. This is attack against Japan, even if they attack the US plane or Taiwan plane. So automatically this area is connected with Japan's security. And indeed, currently the situation is imminent. China intimidate Taiwan militarily repeatedly. 28 Chinese military airplane enter Taiwan's air defense identification zone. So under such kind of situation, Japan need to deal with. That is the reason this white paper is important. Japan tried to show the strength to deter China's aggression against Taiwan. That is the reason this year, this white paper has a big message. That's my answer. A little long, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I'm glad you brought out the question of how Japan's posture is changing, which takes me to my second question. So there's a lot of talk about the militarization of the Indo-Pacific, especially with the Chinese aggressiveness. So, sir, how well do you think Japan is positioned to deal with this militarization of Indo-Pacific?
Of course, when we checked China's military expansion, there is a pattern. In the South China Sea is a good example. When France withdrew from Vietnam, China occupied half of the Paracel Island. That was happening in 1950s. When US withdrew from Vietnam, China take another half of Paracel Island. That has happened in 1970s. In 1980s, China takes 6 feet of the Spratly Island just after the Soviet troops reduced the number in Vietnam. And in 1990s, China occupied Mischief Reef after US withdrew from Philippines. So there is a pattern. When China finds a power vacuum, they try to steal it. So if the country around China maintain military balance, we can deter China's aggressiveness. Maintain the military balance to avoid create a power vacuum. They cannot steal it. That's why maintaining military balance is very important. So that is the reason Indo-Pacific or Quad is very important. This idea, Japan was a pioneer, and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe addressed in the Indian Parliament in 2007 to introduce this idea, both Indo-Pacific and Quad. Even if he did not use this word exactly, but the idea is same. And he introduced idea. And because if Japan and India cooperate, and US, Japan, India cooperate, or US, India, Japan, Australia cooperate, China need to divide their defense budget multi-direction against Japan, against India, against Australia, against the United States at the same time. In this case, viewed from these four countries, it is more easy to maintain military balance to deter China's aggressiveness. If India takes the responsibility, the security in the Indian Ocean, US can concentrate their warship in the Pacific side more. Japan can concentrate the warship Pacific side more, and more easy to maintain military balance. And at the same time, if these countries support the defense capability of the Southeast Asian countries, of course, China needs to deal with them. So it will be easier to maintain military balance. So maintain military balance and do not create a power vacuum. That is a method to deter China's aggressiveness. China is safe, but there's no place they can steal. That is the concept. Thank you.
Sir. So, sir, taking forward the conversation on Quad, as you mentioned it, so a lot has been written, a lot of narratives have come out about Quad being directed towards China, about it being an Asian NATO, about an Indo-Pacific NATO. So, sir, if you could tell us a little bit about how Japan views Quad, and if you could also tell us a bit about the Quad Plus arrangement, how does Japan view that arrangement, and which countries are probably the most likely candidates in this possible Quad Plus arrangement?
Okay. Yes, in the Pacific, Japan was a pioneer. I have already said his address in the Indian Parliament 2007 introduced the idea. Why he need this idea? There are three reasons. First one is this region is rising. Pacific region is rising economically, and the Indian Ocean region is rising economically. So we need one concept to include both at the same time. But at the same time, this situation lead to the second reason. If China dominated this region, it will be a nightmare and we cannot accept it. That is a reason to prevent China's domination in the Indo-Pacific. These countries should cooperate each other. That's the Indo-Pacific and Quad. Because when you check the Quad, Quad is a group of the great powers except China in the Indo-Pacific. So that is the reason Quad must cooperate to maintain military balance with China. And thirdly, the most important country of this Indo-Pacific Quad is India. Why? We can compare with Indo-Pacific and traditional Asia-Pacific. Which region is not included? Indian Ocean region. Which country is the most important in the Indian Ocean region? India. Quad is same. Japan and Australia is US ally, formal ally. So legally binding, there are many chances to cooperate. But why we need to say Quad? Why Prime Minister Abe need to say Quad? Because there is one newcomer, India. Japan, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe want to cooperate with India. That's because this Indo-Pacific and Quad is there. And so now we are talking about Quad Plus. Because to deter China's aggressiveness, we need reinforcement. Reinforcement means plus is needed. But we need to remember this Quad is not a formal alliance, treaty-based alliance, more flexible, case by case. So it looks like this is coalition of willing. So case by cases, we can include Quad Plus. For example, if China takes hostage of Canada now. In this case, Quad can cooperate, Quad can support Canada to take back. In this case, Canada is plus. If China invade Taiwan, Taiwan can be plus. What plus? If China invade Vietnam, Vietnam can be the quad plus. Vietnam is not a democratic country, but our friend, we share the same interest. That's why Vietnam can join the quad plus as a plus. So this is flexible. Case by cases, Quad can support, Quad can aid any country who has the will, who shares the same interest. That's my opinion.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So, this also brings me to, since you mentioned Canada and extra regional actors in the Indo Pacific region. So, if you could tell us about how is Japan viewing the EU's participation in the Indo Pacific, and are we looking at a transatlantic definition of the Indo Pacific region?
Yes, EU's role is very important because one of the problem of China is problem of value. If China will be the success model in the world, many countries will change the political regime from democracy to the authoritarian because China is authoritarian. So EU is a country based on Western values. Western values include democracy, respect human rights, etc., etc. So this kind of the rule-based order is important factor to maintain order in the current world. And China declared to change the world now. And in this case, these values are very important factor. Number of the free countries are reducing and number of the not free countries rising. The many US think tank analyzing it. So under current situation, cooperation with EU is cooperation with value-based cooperation. Simply said, value-based cooperation. This will be. At the same time, the EU's improvement is counter movement against China's infrastructure project, what's called the Belt and Road Initiative. Indeed, China is buying the country around the world, especially poor country. They suggest infrastructure project with high interest rate. And if this political regime change pro-China to anti-China, they ask this country to return money. That's why Sri Lanka lost Hambantota port. So China leased Hambantota port for 99 years because Sri Lanka cannot return the debt. So indeed, there are similar cases in the world, not only in the Indo-Pacific, but also in Africa or Eastern Europe too. Under such kind of situation, the Quad and EU must suggest alternative infrastructure project this country can accept. Because there is no alternative, Sri Lanka accepted China's suggestion. That time, because just after the civil war, and there are no country except China want to support Sri Lanka as an infrastructure project. But now, this country can prepare alternative suggestion to deal with China's debt trap. So that is the reason the EU is very important role. EU has cooperation with the EU is very important. That's my answer.
Much. So, sir, this would of course bring me to my last question, which is a sort of a generic question, and sort of it would tie up all the answers which you've already reflected in these questions. So, Japan, of course, has been one of the earliest advocates of the Indo-Pacific construct, right? So, if you could just tell us a little bit about how this idea originated in Japan and whether we see any change in Japan's conceptualization of the concept in terms of newer geopolitical realities, such as the aggressiveness of China and the military rise of China. If you could just reflect on that, please.
Yeah, during the COVID-19 crisis, China provoked Geneva too much, and China imposed a sanction against Australia because Australia asked the international community to investigate the origin of the COVID-19. and they take hostage of the Canada. Maybe they have done many things at the same time. But at the same time, because of this, the U.S. escalated their effort against China, and U.S.-China competition has escalated. So under such kind of situation, what will happen is very important. So when we check of the future of the Indo-Pacific or future of the Quad, what kind of future we will see after the US-China competition is a very important factor. In my opinion, because of the US history, US has a long strategy to win the competition against China. Because last 245 years, the USA, the 245 years is the US history, but the US spent only 169 years to change from just a colony of British Empire to the only superpower in the world. And during this process, all of the rival has disappeared because they lose competition with United States. And under the process, indeed, the US plan many long-term strategy. For example, one of the strategy is before the World War II, the US planned Orange Plan against Japan to win the competition with Japan, and that has really implemented. And but that time, interesting plan is Red Plan, not Orange Plan. Orange Plan against Japan, but there are the other colors. Red Plan is plan against British and Canada. During the World War II, even if the World War I, US support British. Despite this, between the two wars, indeed, United States planned the strategy against the British. Because international relation is very flexible, it is understandable US is preparing any situation. So viewed from such kind of the US flexibility of the United States, there's a high possibility United States has a long-term plan against China. And so that is the reason the Trump administration and Biden administration share the same policy, because there is a plan and they implemented it. So view from this kind of process, there's a high possibility that in the future, US will win the competition against China based on their long-term strategy. So if such kind of situation will happen, what is the Quad's role? If US wins the competition against China, the US side country will lead the new world order after the competition. In this case, in the Indo-Pacific, Quad is the only framework, includes all of the great power except China. So Quad will lead this region in the future. That is the reason this Quad is very important. Quad plus, maybe of course European right keep the influence in the future, but in the other country, in the other region, also join this new world order, I think. But at the same time, in this region, Quad is very important because this is the only concept to include all great powers except China. So potential of the Quad is very big, and we cannot underestimate it. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Or
Definitely, sir.
yeah,
So, am I
nearly
audible?
30 minutes, that's true.
Yes. Sir, I would love to take this conversation forward, and I know I just said that was the last question, but it wouldn't be fair if I don't ask you a little bit about how you're seeing India and Japan's partnership play out in the Indo-Pacific region, and whether together they can sort of like I strongly believe that it is the multipolar vision of the region which is really holding them together. So how far do we see these countries building this region, and how does the partnership in US and India and Japan partnership look in the region? And this will definitely be my last question.
Yeah, indeed, traditionally, more than 70 years, US, Japan, Australia has already kept as a ally. So this means that these three countries can coordinate very well indeed. But India is newcomer, so these three countries must understand India. But at the same time, India need to understand us too. That is the reason. This is just the beginning. In the U.S. India cooperation has started since U.S. and India begin Malabar exercise in 1992. So since 1992, nearly 30 years has gone. So now, compare with the past, US and India understand each other. But Japan joined a little later, Australia joined a little later. We need to spend more time. We need to share more time to understand each other. So potential is very big. Dream is very big. That is the reason we should materialize this dream. That is we need to do. Thank you. We can do, I think.
Definitely, sir, definitely. And I do believe that this partnership that we are building through countries, and I think think tanks. Sir, am I audible? Yes, sir. So as I was saying, that I think partnerships like this will go a long way in helping us understand each other's countries. So once again, thank you so very much for taking time out. As you must be knowing, sir, this Quad and Quad Plus initiative, which we've started at Usanas, is new and first of its kind, where we're trying to look at Indo-Pacific issues, and we definitely expect your continued guidance and participation to help us grow this program and really raise the awareness, which I think is needed about the Indo-Pacific region as a whole. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for taking time out today, and I wish you have a good day for the rest of the day. And thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.